Let's wait for a few more minutes and we will move.
Awesome. Sounds good. Hey, everyone joining. We're going to kick things off shortly. We're just going to give it a bit longer for anyone else to join.
Yeah, just few more minutes. We will start at 3:05. All right then. Hello everyone. I hope you are all doing well. Thank you for joining today's community webinar. We are excited to introduce Envio and its powerful features. In this session, we will walk you through a live demo of the Envio platform to showcase its capabilities in action. Let us start with a quick introduction to our team and our guest. Myself, Omkar Mistry, Head of Technology and Engineering at XDC Network. Joining me is Mr. Anil Chinswale, Head of Protocol Development at the XDC Network, and Mr. Suresh Nada, who leads the social media for XDC Network. Also joining us today, founder of Envio, Mr. Denham. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Denham.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Moving forward with the XDC Network presentation. So Zinfin was founded in year 2016, registered in Singapore with headquarters in Dubai and India. So we have launched the XDC Network mainnet in the year 2019, and it's live more than 5-6 years now. We are a EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain network powered by the XDC token, which supports the entire XDC ecosystem. XDC network is a hybrid blockchain network, which combining public and private network, making it suitable for both the sectors. It runs on the delegated proof of stake systems, which allowing the fast transactions, low energy use, and the high efficiency, and it will perfect for the trade and finance industry or any industries. Just on the side note, we have recently upgraded with our network XDC 2.0, which has a military grade security and advanced forensic monitoring for XDC network. So what XDC delivers you is the best of blockchain. So we have achieved over 2,000 transactions per second with a 2 to 3 seconds of a block finality. It also offer near zero transaction fees. We also have KYC enabled masternode to ensure the compliances and the regulatory requirement in any country. Or we have a developer ready developers tool like the Wallet, Explorer, Remix to deploy the smart contracts. So these are the few network highlights. So we have almost more than 17,000 smart contracts already deployed on the network. We have 3 million plus accounts with the 6 to 7 million transactions on this. The total number of master nodes is 108 plus 250 plus, which are the standby nodes. So the standby nodes is basically, if any master node goes down, so it's actually works as a backup node. So we have a market cap almost about a 2 billion ETH and staked with the $3 billion plus $4.5 million, the total volume. And the maximum daily volume is almost 48 million. Yeah, so these are the wallets which is actually preferred by the XDC community to store the XDC tokens and other XDC based tokens to store them in a safe way. So we have a Gorda in place, we have a free wallet, we have a Elipal, we have a decent wallet, we have a Trezor, Ledger, so which supports the XDC tokens to store in a safe way. And there are many which are already listed on the Zinfin website. I will share the link as well in the chat box. So these are the top exchanges in which all our XDC ecosystem tokens are getting traded. So you can simply buy the XDC tokens and other tokens from this exchanges. So we have a Bitfinex, Git.io, KuCoin, Liquid, HTX, Bitrue, Bitgate. So these are the few, the top exchanges where the XDC is getting traded. And there are a few more. So we have almost more than 20 plus exchanges listed the XDC. And the list is already there in the, you can find it on the coin market cap or it is already there on our website. Yeah, so we have been running with the XDC incubation and acceleration program, which is dedicated to empowering the Web3 startups and the innovators. We offer the mentorship, funding, and access to the XDC ecosystem. If you have a product and planning to launch your product using the XDC network, you can apply through any of our cohort programs. by just scanning the QR code, which is already displayed in the slide. So currently we have been running with the Foundership, 1080, T-Hub, Plug and Play, and the Launch Pool. All those programs are there on the website, listed on their website. So you can find any if you find any the particular use cases, you can simply apply it through the any of these cohorts. Yeah, so these are the few of our ecosystem partners. So we have a Comtech Gold in place. We have a Storex, which actually works like a decentralized storage. It's similar like a Google Drive. We have a Securitize, we have a TradeTech, we have C currencies, and we have Stasis. So these are the few, and there are many more which actually support the XDC ecosystem partners. Yeah. So you can follow us on the Telegram. It's already link is already there in the slide. So we also have a GitHub account, so you can find all this, the source code and the code base on GitHub. On in the network on the Twitter, we have more than 108K followers. Right, www.zenfin.org is our official website. We also have a Medium channel, and we also have a YouTube channel where you can find all the how-to videos and all the relevant information about the XDC network. Yeah. So today we are going to introduce the Envio platform to you. So Envio is a powerful blockchain and middleware solution designed to simplify, and the enhance smart contract event indexing all the data retrieval. It provides the developer with a real-time, efficient, and scalable access to on-chain data, enabling the seamless dApp development and integration. So let's hear more from the founder of Envio, Mr. Denham. Over it to you.
Thanks, Omkar. Really appreciate it. Sorry, let me just mute those other notifications. Cool. I hope everyone's strapped in with a hot cup of coffee, at least if it's early on your side of the world. I can see we've got a bunch of people here: Harry, Ian, Jay, John, a few Johns, Kayla, Rogers. Super amped to have you here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Envio, and if it comes across initially as a bit abstract, don't worry, we're going to try to simplify it as much as possible, and we're going to run through progressively simpler and simpler kind of, well, we're going to start off really simple and kind of go into it with a practical example of how we can access some of this data. So if I can share my screen, Omkar, I don't know if you could,
sure, let me just stop presenting my screen. So
sweet. All right. Maybe I can kick things off with just a little introduction to myself. My name is Denham, pronounced like the jeans. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. I've been in the Web3 space for 6 or 7 years now. My background, my academic background is in computer science and economics. And I really enjoyed doing development. A lot of my day-to-day is maybe not that so much, but I think it's always going to be a passion of mine. Some other notable things: I'm a safe guardian, and yeah, outside of it, I like to trail run and surf. Not that I get to do that too often though. Cool. Without further ado, let's dive into Envio and kind of break it down a little bit more. So Envio is a core piece of infrastructure. Okay, so we are designed to work on top of a blockchain for accessing data and building APIs. So protocols, dApps, for example, Sablia or Web3 domains, will use our technology to build purpose-built APIs and access specific data. Now, I know that can be quite abstract. We will try to break it down a little bit more with some practical examples and then go through a bit of a workshop where we'll take a look at code. If it's not familiar, don't worry too much. We'll keep it simple, and we'll see how that looks to actually get a better idea how the tool can be used. Cool. So I think Jordan shared our links in the messages. You can check it out. Definitely check out our site. Got lots of great testimonials around. I just want to start off with maybe highlighting our kind of two core products. All right, HyperIndex and HyperSync. Now they're very complementary and they work together to essentially allow you as a developer in the XDC ecosystem to build an API. And that is to essentially act as the middle layer between your smart contracts and your front end. That's usually what it's used for. There's some kind of more examples you can use. You can use it to pipe notifications and send your users notifications. You can use it in a few different forms. I just want to make a quick pause there and say if anyone has any specific questions, please do pop it in the messages. I will try and check in every once in a while, but Omkar, if you would like to just interrupt me if there's a question that's pressing, please do so. Cool. So HyperIndex, this is the framework that we use to develop these APIs, and HyperSync is the engine beneath the framework that gives it its performance. Now, with 2,000 transactions per second, there's obviously quite a lot of data happening, and so performance becomes more and more important. And HyperSync is our own purpose-built node for designed around getting data fast. Okay, so little teaser slide, little teaser section, just showing you this is the time it took to index and kind of pull data for a Uniswap ETHUSDC pool. There was about 5 million events, swap events, and this benchmark you can see with Envio it took about 10 minutes, and with other frameworks around 17 hours. So it really is just chalk and cheese on the performance. But I'm going to show you that in a practical example. All right. So before we dive into the workshop, and this workshop, we're going to look at XDC domains. There's a really great tutorial post in the dev forum. If you check it out here, you can see the practical step-by-step guide. We're going to do that in today's workshop, but we're going to start from scratch. So we're going to see how that will look. As always with demos, it might be a little bit rocky, but we'll bring that up later and we'll go through it with live demos at least. Cool. So let's take a more practical look at how Envio might be used. Now, there's an example I like to go into because you can see both the index and the back end and this API and how it looks. And we can look at the front end and we can see what the data actually getting pulled in. And that's with Uniswap v4. So just a note, these are kind of APIs that people have deployed onto our infrastructure. And I'm going to take a look at this one specifically. And we can see all the data around it. These are just kind of demo examples. But you can see this Uniswap v4 indexer has indexed, I don't know, close to 10 different networks or so. And it parsed and processed around 9 million events in about 18 minutes. So it reads all this data really fast, says, okay, cool, we've got this smart contract interaction data. Let's build an API around that and see what that looks like. Now, I can click here to the playground. And if I clear this, we can do some click operations to try to take a look at some swaps. I'm just going to pull some random data, and we'll see that showing here. So you can see we've got different swap amounts. Obviously, the negative means it's going out, and the amount zero means, or if it's a positive, it's coming in. So we can see all this kind of swap data. This all looks like it's on chain ID 130. But let's actually look at this more practically. So this is very much from a technical perspective, and you can access this data over GraphQL. Hey, everyone who's joining, I can see some more people joining the chat. We're gonna demo a couple things on Envio. Check it out at envio.dev. But all right, so this index is specifically, this GraphQL endpoint is where we're getting data from. And at Playground, it's just like click around and see some operations. But let's take a look at what that would look like in the front end. So one thing really fun about working in the data space is everything's super interesting. You can get fascinating data kind of insights into different protocols. And you can see here that Uniswap v4 indexer is hydrating data into this front-end API, this front end. So it's fetching data from that API. Now you can see, super interesting off the bat, you can see Base has quite a lot of swaps. You can look at Polygon, also quite a lot of swaps. And these networks down here, they seem to have less swaps happening. Not sure totally why. In line with the topic of this discussion, this talk, we want to see that happening live. And it's really nice to see this visualization because you can see it happening in real time. Okay, so we're seeing these swaps coming through as they happen. So we saw we had a $92 swap, $140 swap on Base between ETH USDC. Really cool just to see this data live. And as far as I know, this is the most real-time environment where you can see Uniswap data on a dashboard like this. Definitely check it out a little bit more. In fact, you can run it yourself. You can run the API. There's some nice documentation here. The indexer is open source, so if you want to take it and build on top of it, you can. But we digress a little bit. So that's an indexer example in the wild currently being used. And what we're going to do is we're going to start fresh with an XDC contract, and we're going to look at how we can build an API around that indexer. So let me just take a chance to check the chat quickly if there's any specific questions. No, all good. I can see we have some AI note takers. That's fantastic. Always nice to be able to reference some documents a little bit, some of the topics a little bit later. All right. Before we start building out that API, let's look at a few more practical examples. So what I've shown you now is hyper-index mostly, okay? This is the framework for building an API. And it's a bit of code. You specify, this is going to look a little bit overwhelming, but you can see I've just clicked on the code base here. We can look at the configuration file. This is essentially where we specify what networks we're interested in, what contracts we want to listen to, what are the events we're interested in indexing. So this is quite a big indexer, so you can see there's quite a bit of config. In our example, it's going to be super simple. We're going to make it really simple and vanilla. You can see that API that we were able to access data from in this schema file. So we specify how that database would look. If this doesn't look too familiar, don't worry. It'll make a bit more sense as we go a bit further. And then we have something called an event handler, which is where we implement our logic to take that raw data, process it into information, and save it into the database. All right, again, that's hyperindex. Now, the layer beneath it is something called hypersync. And hypersync is a low-level API, so not that easy to always demo or take a look at. So what we've done is we've built some tools on top of it, which we can use to visualize that in action. Okay, so I'm going to start with the most pretty interface to it, and that's called something called, let me just close some of these tabs. That's called chain density. Okay, so let's pull up a contract. Let's go to XDC scan. Let's find a contract that we want to get some information about, and we want to kind of visualize it. So again, this is a UI. It's a website you can use to play with that fetches data from this API. I see we have a question. Maybe I can answer it quickly. Can developers customize which blockchain events, transactions, or smart contracts get indexed? Rachel, exactly. That is the purpose of it. So fantastic question. Developers can specify which networks they're interested in, which events specifically on a contract, and we can index that data and look at it. And that's what hyperindex is purpose-built for. And hypersync is maybe the raw API beneath it, which feeds data, and it's a bit more flexible, but maybe not as friendly because it's not as purpose-built for indexing data and building APIs. But let's take a look at hypersync, the layer beneath, and we can we can kind of go through those steps. So I'm on XDC scan now. Let's find a contract with a lot of transactions. So let's take a token contract with a lot of transfers. Okay, so I'm going to make an assumption that this Gamma coin, which has got 100,000 holders, has probably been traded quite a few times. So let's take a look at that token while that loads. I want to get this contract address. Okay, so I'm going to copy this contract address here. And let's plug this into chain density. So I'm going to paste in that address. We can either look for event density or we can look at transaction density. So we're going to get a nice visualization and we're going to see it in action how performant and fast it is in fetching data. Okay, we're of course interested in XDC network. Not why is XDC? Why do we only have the testnet showing here? Okay, I've got a feeling this tools UI hasn't been updated properly, but why not? Let's just get started from testnet for now. We'll show some examples. Awesome. So this contract seems to be, this has only got 9 holders though. So let's find something that has a bit more transaction data for our, let's go verified contracts maybe. All right. So we don't have the biggest transaction volume here. I'm essentially looking for a contract that has a big volume of transactions so we can demo or flex how fast it is with having enough data so it's actually impressive and it's not just instant, and that's kind of the case. All right, let's try, let's look at top accounts. Maybe they're holding tokens that are traded the most. Okay, let's take a look. Transaction counts. This user's done a lot of transactions. Let's find a contract that they've transferred with. There's no two. All right, I'm getting stumped a little bit on a couple of things here. The demo gods are showing me this. Let's plug in just one of these default quick examples, and we'll look into why this hasn't been updated with the XDC mainnet. But cool, as you can see, we parsed this contract on Ethereum mainnet, and we can see all the event distribution. So over this block interval, for some reason, this contract, which was the Eigenlayer strategy manager, I believe, was very, very popular and so fast. You can see it took 0.25 seconds to process all this data and present it in the front end, which is super cool and super fast. Okay. I see we've got some more questions. Anil, thanks so much for sharing an address. Let me give that a try. All right. Okay. I'm going to put this. I'm going to take the XDC testnet, and I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to generate the visualization. Cool. So this token is Vital Veda. You saw how fast that was. Again, super quick. And we can get an idea of that event distribution over time. So it's super cool to look at. We searched through around 8 million blocks per second, and we're able to pull all these event data in like super fast. Now, this is not Hypersync. I just want to make that clear. This is a tool built on top of Hypersync, and it's intended for kind of a visual demo of how you can see this data from quite a low level API. All right, I saw another question in the chat from Eddie. Eddie, how do you handle resyncing in the case of a chain reorganization? Coming with the hard-hitting questions. This is great. So I actually wrote an article here in our blog, which goes into more detail. I'm going to pull it up just so we can, it's indexing and reorgs just for kind of reference. But it's, so for those who aren't familiar with the reorg, just to give you an idea of what's happening, we have a case where all the nodes are updating and syncing at the same time. But what can happen sometimes if you have a kind of a chain split or a fork, and you have an instance for a short amount of time where you have two different blockchains running at the same time. And what will happen is one of those will, the network will decide on consensus and pick one of those chains, and these blocks that were mined would drop away. Okay, so the canonical or orphan data would disappear. And the risk you run is if you're reading data from those nodes and you have this chain reorg, you might have false data. Okay, and it's very, very conceptually simple, but quite difficult to implement from a technical perspective, because you need to, and this article goes into it a little bit more on different kind of types of data, but you need to handle it at the latest point of data aggregation. Okay, so you need to essentially be reorg aware at all points of your data aggregation. So if you, at hypersync, it's reorg aware. If it realizes that the block hash is changed, it will roll back and resync. And similarly, at the hyperindex phase, it will also roll back and reindex. And something that's, yeah, just really important to consider, because certain operations like 1 + 1 = 2, you can change the order of it, that's fine. But with some multiplication division operations, you're going to get into a weird state. So actually rolling that back can be quite challenging. Alrighty, okay. Let's take a step slightly lower. We're going to do another visualization around of hypersync, and this time I'm going to do something in the terminal. And similar to this, I just want to show you what it looks like to access this API. The best place to actually get a deeper understanding of this API is to go to the docs, of course. And we go through some kind of practical examples. There's some video tutorials. Something quite nice is maybe something quite simple. It's copy pastable. You can take these, you can copy and paste one of these queries. It might look a bit intimidating at first, but the goal of these is just to, you don't have to think too much. You copy paste and get an idea what it's doing. I'm going to show you something more practical, of a bit more of a user interface to this. So you can see we've got this query. You could copy and paste from the terminal, and you could get data for all ERC20 transfers for a given address. Maybe that's quite practical if you're building a wallet interface or something. All right, I want to show you log2e. A log2e is, as it kind of implies, it's a logs terminal UI. So we're going to look at blockchain logs in a terminal UI. And you can look at the repo here. It's just quite a nice way of visualizing kind of interaction with hypersync. Awesome, John. So I'm gonna go to the npm package, because maybe some of you are familiar with this environment. I've got the tool locally, and so what I want to do is I want to run log2e on all ERC20 transactions. I thought there would be an example here, but let's give it sorry, my keyboard's playing tricks on me. Let's do little log2e for all ERC20 logs on XDC. And you can see it's going to spin up, and really cool. You can just see it flying through the data. Again, this is just a visualization to see that's happening. And we're looking at all ERC20 transfers and approvals, because those are essentially ERC20 events. And you can see we're processing about 160,000 events per second. We're not doing much data aggregation. We're kind of simply looking at that event distribution. So interesting, you'll see it might slow down in sections where there's much higher full network event distribution. You can try this yourself, and I'm going to copy and paste the query. You can either download your, you can either install the tool locally into your terminal, or you can simply run it with npx. So I've got the wrong thing, copy and paste to my terminal. Let me just space this out while it's still running there. ERC20 XRP. I suggest giving that command a try in your terminal if you are comfortable in the terminal. It will require that you have npm set up already, but you don't need to. You can either install it globally through like a package manager, or you can just run it like that and you can see it. You could also do XRP testnet if you wanted. We've done it with mainnet. I would imagine testnet might be quite fast or might be quite cool to check out as well. You can play with that if you like. Okay, so that's syncing. I'm actually going to kill it because I've got another thing to demo. It's quite cool. You can see it's gotten faster over time. We're reading through about 300,000 events per second. Super awesome to see in action. I see that. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, Danan. So I think until it syncs, like we can just go through the questions over the chat box.
Awesome. Thanks, Suresh.
Yeah.
I see there's a question from BlockScan. Is there a mechanism to replay historical transactions for re-indexing purposes? Interesting question. So yes, yes, I suppose. I think there's a few ways to interpret this question, but I'm going to answer it in the way I think I'm understanding. But feel free to follow up if I'm not answering it correctly. When we index data, and we'll see it with hyperindex when we kind of play with that a little bit, what we're going to do is we're going to sync through the historical data. And so during that process, we can, in our event handlers, we can choose to do certain actions, or we can simply save it to a database. So in that sense, I want to say to your question, yes, but I might be misinterpreting it slightly. Okay, cool. So we saw that got to the end. Really cool. Let's do one more. Let's do one more example. So as you saw here, this is quite simple. We were just doing transfer and approval. We have another demo called, sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. We have another demo called Logregate. And this does something slightly, it's a fork of Log2, and it does something slightly more in a sense that we look at some aggregate data from a specific smart contract. So let's go to XDC scan. I'm going to try, I think this might work if I say USDC. Yeah, British USDC, cool. Okay, so we can see we've got some data around it. We should get something similar in our test of this, but let's take this contract address. Cool. And I'm just going to copy this top one. And again, since I have the tool locally, I don't have to run it with npx. I suppose it's fine. Yeah, let's not run it with npx. If I remove this here, and I just make sure I'm using the correct USDC contract. All right, I'm going to take that here. And what's happening here is what I'm hovering. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Oh, let's make it a bit clearer. Okay, so what I'm doing is, before I run it, I'm just going to put in the correct USDC address. Okay, so we got, let's just make sure that we're looking at the right network. Okay, cool. So we've got a terminal command, and we're looking at the transfer event, specifically on the XDC network, and specifically we're looking at the value field, which is a number field. So we're going to get some aggregate data on USDC, which is, here's a USDC contract address, which I just pulled from XDC scan, and then the number of decimal places is 6. All right, so we XDC specifically, I think we might be able to see it somewhere here. See, with 6 decimal places is kind of a unique one because most tokens are 18 decimal places, but just specifying this here will make it a bit easier to look at. Cool. Not a crazy amount of events that happen blitz super fast. and we've got some aggregate data now around XDC on USDC on XDC. So super interesting to see. We've got about 2,704 transfer events recognized. The sum total, so the total volume traded of XDC, sorry, I keep mixing up, of USDC on XDC is around 500 million, and so 500,000, and we've got a max transfer of 25,000, the min transfer of 0, someone transferred 0 amount, and we can see the average was 205, and I think my screen's getting cut off, but we can also see the standard deviation and variance of that thing. So super interesting to see. All right, I'm going to check in on any questions, and Jordan, thanks for sharing that tool in the terminal. If anyone has any specific contracts they want to check out, we can unpack that. Hey, Clara. Let's dive into Hyperindex and look how it can work. Hey, John. Lots of love coming in. Chloe, John Doe, Clara Smith. Awesome. Thanks for all the reactions there. All right. Let's take a look at Hyperindex and how we might be able to use this very cool technology to build an API. Okay. So I'm going to start from scratch. Okay. And we... maybe in the sake of time, actually, I'm not going to start from scratch. We're a little bit short, so I'm going to go to this tutorial. Maybe I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to set it up, and then we're going to switch to the fully built one so that there's maybe no hiccups as we go. All right. So as a developer, I want to build an API for my smart contract. Now, in this example, I'm going to come here and I'm going to look for verified contracts. So when I was building out this tutorial, I was like, cool, what would be interesting to index? What do we want to do? Do we want to get token balances for Curry token? Do we want to get the prices from Fact Oracle? And when I was looking at this, I was looking at for verified contracts with high numbers of transactions, because I thought that would be a better demo so you could see it working at scale. And I came along and I came across the XDC Web3 domains contract. Cool. And very nice that they've verified it. So we can look at the code, and I can click here, and we can look at the source code here. We can pull the ABI, which is really nice. But what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the transactions a little bit first. We can see there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in this contract. I'm going to go to this contract, and I'm going to copy this ABI. Okay, so first things first, we have the ABI, which is, if you're not familiar, it's the application binary interface. It's pretty much just our smart contract defined in more computer readable format. Okay, so I'm going to open an instance of VS Code. If you're not familiar with coding, don't worry too much. We're going to try to keep it simple. It's not going to be a long. It's not going to be a long one. Let's create a new file. Let's call it our ABI. Okay, and I'm just going to paste that in there and save it. Cool. This isn't that human readable. Again, it's for computers to understand, or programs to interface with. But let's give it a go now. So I'm going to say super simple. We're going to use Envio's CLI tool to spin up an index of boilerplate. Okay, so I'm going to say pnpx Envio init. I've created a folder already, so I'm going to choose this folder that I'm currently working in. We can have the option of setting up in JavaScript, TypeScript, or Rescript. I'm going to say TypeScript. We're going to go EVM. We're going to import the contract automatically. We could work from a template, pre-existing template. I'm going to say contract import. We've got our local ABI, so I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to specify the path to that file. Cool. It's read that ABI. Remember, it's a computer readable format, so our program knows how to interpret it. And it said, these are the events that are emitted on that contract. Okay. Now, since I've done this activity already, I've already indexed this contract, and it's going to be super cool. Sorry, I've maybe been alluding to it, but it's going to be super cool to see what this API actually builds out and how you might be able to use it. I might be teasing it a little bit by not showing you that already, but what I've already looked at this contract, so I know we're interested in the new URI and the transfer event. Okay, So we don't need the ownership transfer. So I'm just going to select those 2 events. I don't want to overclutter my space. Cool. I've selected those. I'm going to put in XDC, and the name of this contract is XDC domains. I think we have 3 domains, but I'm just going to do it like that. XDC domains. We need the contract address. So we're going to come over here, copy this. We're going to paste it in, and you can add more contracts if you want. You can index multiple different networks. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm going to click I'm finished. I'm going to skip this step for now, but API tokens are required for local development. I've just got my environment set up already. Okay, and really cool. That's going to spin us up a boilerplate indexer. Okay, so before we look at the code, let's actually run it and see what it does. Okay, so I'm saying npm dev. It's generated all this code for us, and based on that contract, so we've got an out-the-box event API, and I'm running this to see that event data in action. So you can see super fast processing through all these events. I can click on this local environment and look at the data that's getting saved. Let's take a look. Why not? Which can be accessed over GraphQL API. So because it's just spun up automatically, this API, so I'm just looking at the database, don't get too confused. I might be going a little bit fast because I'm conscious of time, but we can see we're saving all these events, okay, into an API that we can request data from. Now, we probably want to do something a little bit more, okay? We don't just want to have raw event data. We want to be able to call a practical use case for XDC domains is I want to either give an XDC domain and know which address is that for, or I want to pass in an address to know what domains they hold. Okay, so it's like a lookup engine for domains to domain handles, or addresses to domains, should I say. Cool. All right, let's take a look at the code, because now that's spun up all these files for us. We can see it in action. The files, you can check out the little README. It's got the instructions to how to run it. You saw I just ran npm dev. Let's take a look at what that code looks like. Cool. So we specified XDC domains. This is auto-generated for us based on those inputs. It's got the events we're interested in, and we've got our schema. This is how we save the data into our database. And we've just been saving raw event data. We haven't done any kind of modification. And we have these event handler files, which kind of says on this contract, when we have this event, let's handle it and do something sensible. In this case, all we're doing is saving that entity to the database, that event. We're not doing something extra and further. In the sake of time, I'm going to show you the slightly modified version of this. So if I go to, this is what's in the kind of tutorial. I'm going to take a look at the code here. Okay, again, this config file should look pretty much exactly like what we just looked at. No changes there. Okay, we've got the network, we've got our tokens we're interested in. This time, we've changed the, sorry, let me just close those. We've changed the, what the database looks like. Because remember, we said we want to know for a given address, we want to know what names they have. So we've done a slight modification here. And this is the shape of our data that we're interested in, not just the blank event data. Now, the event handler file has been modified slightly, okay? And we're not going to dive too deeply into this code. It's fine for illustration purposes. You can check it out. That code's all public and available. But what we're pretty much doing is when we get a new URI registered, we're saving that to a Web3 domain so we can access that API. Okay, now let's spin this up locally. Actually, I'll tell you what, you've seen me run it locally. Let's take a look at this API in production. So Envio has a hosted service where you can deploy these APIs to run continuously on. Now, this is the README I'm interested in. So again, very similar. This time, I've put some example. Let's come here. Let's go to the Explorer. Let's just go to this XDC Web3 domains API. And something that's quite practical is this query of, okay, cool, I want to query domain by name. So if I know this is a domain that exists, I want to know the actual address of it, what name it should resolve to. So there's two example queries here, and this one is the reverse of it for this given domain. So anyway, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go over to the playground. I could click here and click ops all this data in, but let's just paste it in. I'm going to click play, and it executed this query, and we can see the owner of hello.xdc is this address. And if we wanted to, we could validate that on XDC scan. We can paste that in there and take a look, and we should see that they have hello. Well, they've got the XDC Web3 domains. One, maybe the naming here isn't super clear. Again, similarly, you might want to you might have an address and want to look up all the domains for that, and we can paste this in, and we can see this address has all these different domains. They even have zinfin.xdc, XDC Foundation. I don't know who this is. Maybe it's someone on this call. But yeah, awesome. Just a very cool practical demo of what that looks like. Okay, we have 9 more minutes. I can go through a couple more things, but maybe worth opening the floor to a couple questions. So open invite to some questions, pop it in the message chat. I'll take a look. Yes, Suresh.
Thank you, Danam. Thank you so much for your explanations. Thank you all for joining us today. This session is open for the questions. Please drop your questions in our chat box, and we would be happy to answer that. So we have 8 more minutes, and the session is open for the questions. Please drop your questions in the chat box, and we will be happy to answer that. And Danam will take the session ahead, and we'll just close our session in 8 minutes. And just feel free to follow us on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn. And if you have any question after this session, please join our Telegram group. I have dropped the Telegram group link in the chat box. Please join us and stay updated with our future event as well. So yeah, Danam, ahead to you.
Cool, awesome. Don't see any questions yet. Maybe they're still getting typed up. No problem. So maybe a good thing. It means things are very clear. I can touch on 1 or 2 other things.
Yeah.
But you saw me running Indexer locally. You saw it deployed into production and very much a hosted Indexer where you can access data from. I just want to show you how simple and nice that is. But essentially, you deploy your Indexer by linking it to your GitHub repository. So once you've created a GitHub repository, you link it to Envio, and it's as simple as saying git push, and it'll deploy another instance for you. So we have some really nice features on that side. I could make another deployment for this, and maybe I can demo that. It's quite simple. So usually I'd actually have some code changes, but I'm just going to deploy just an empty commit to make it. But I'd say git commit this changes, and I git push. And what's really cool is we should see it deploying here. So very quick, very fast. And I can swap out that endpoint so I can use a production endpoint, switch out the endpoint, just ensuring continuous uptime. Cool. 5 more minutes. If anybody here is building an XDC ecosystem, wants some help building out an indexer, I'd be more than happy to help you spin up that command, Envio init. We can build up it takes, you saw it's it's a couple minutes. We can build a basic API, and off of that we can iterate and choose specific data points and cater that information for you as an end user. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We can get a Telegram group going, and we can try and look to to get you up and running so that you've got this rich data. All right. I think if we have no more questions, we can come to an end here.
Great. Thank you so much, Denim, and thank you so much, Jordan, for sharing all the important links in the chat box here. That was an wonderful presentation and a wonderful experience for all of us here. Thank you so much. And I'll just like to inform you that this webinar is being recorded and going live on YouTube as well as on Twitter. So in case if you would like to rewind and check all the informations that Danan has been explaining in this webinar, you can just directly go to our YouTube link as well as on Twitter broadcast, and you can just replay all this complete session there. And in case if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in our Telegram group. And also do join Envio's Telegram group and follow their Twitter handle as well for the future updates. And if you would like to have any ideas, or if you would like to connect with Dan or Jordan, just feel free to chat with us on our Telegram group. We'll directly like to connect you with them, and just like stay connected and build on XDC network. And we have like come to an end of this webinar, and see you soon with our next webinar, that is XDC Tech 6.0. Soon we will be releasing the update on XDC Tech Webinar 6.0 with another tech building on XDC. And thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jordan. That was an awesome webinar.
Thanks, Krish. Really appreciate it. And massive shout out to everyone who joined: Victor, Yashi, Stacy, Sam, Ron, Ruslan, Robert Bitgo. I saw a very great name there, Elon Dusk. Ninad, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Kayla, Jennifer, Jignesh, JJ, massive thank you. And thanks to the XCC team for having me.
Hey guys, see you soon. Catch you later on the next episode. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.